All right, this is going to be a tough one. A new New York Times report says, per five sources, that President Biden is increasingly accepting that he cannot win in November and is going to have to drop out of the race. Now, I want to again state, if I ignore this reality, I do no one a service. I do you a disservice. If you look at the comments on YouTube from my discussions yesterday of the fact that top Democrats are now telling Joe Biden, you've got to step down and allow someone else to run. If you look at the comments, they are riddled with personal attacks against me, saying I shouldn't even be bringing this up. The fact that I'm talking about it is a problem. Folks, this is happening. It doesn't have anything to do with me. I am a mere bit player in this entire thing. And we, if it is happening, need to be prepared to defeat Donald Trump. So let me tell you what's going on. First and foremost, check out the article from the New York Times. People close to Biden say he appears to accept he may have to leave the race. This account is based on interviews with 5 people close to the president, all of whom are describing the situation as delicate, speaking on the condition of anonymity to avoid offending the president. Now, what the sources say is that the reality that others already have come to believe is setting in for President Biden. There's the potential that President Biden will make an announcement over the next few days that he will not be running for re-election. There is expected to be no resignation. In other words, that Biden would say, I will not be a candidate for re-election, but I will remain president until the next presidential term. And the disagreement to some degree is it is leaning towards he would endorse his Vice President Kamala Harris, but not everyone believes that that would necessarily be the case. And then there is the question of whether or not he endorses Kamala Harris, whether he would say there should be an open Democratic convention in August. There has been a palpable shift in the last 48 hours, palpable shift. And I know that there are people in my audience who are refusing to accept it and saying this is merely a story created by, I guess, me and some others. You all know, if you've been watching this show for a long time now, that I have said to you, I am always going to be frank about what I believe to be going on. And up until several weeks ago, I believed it was abundantly clear that Biden would be the nominee. In the aftermath of the presidential debate on June 27th, I told you, while there is now more shakiness, I am still leaning towards Biden will probably be the nominee because he seems to have most of the support of Democrats. That has changed. Over the last 48 hours, we have learned that top Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer has privately told the president, do not run for re-election. You will hurt the party. Nancy Pelosi, top Democrat in the House, has said the same thing. Hakeem Jeffries, top Democrat in the House, has said the same thing. Adam Schiff, top Democrat in the House seeking to be senator, has said the same thing. Jamie Raskin has said the same thing. And now there are reports about President Barack Obama telling allies that the path to victory for President Biden in November has been greatly diminished. It is really difficult to imagine. Doesn't matter what I say, okay? It doesn't matter what I say. And I see all of you unsubscribing because I'm telling you what's going on. It doesn't matter what I say when you see 6 of the most prominent Democrats in the country saying this doesn't seem good. Polling in swing states shifting to Trump winning every single state. Major donations from Democratic donors frozen. How can you ignore what seems to be right in front of our eyes as happening? The White House is denying it. Obviously, it's meaningless. And let me explain why. You have to deny it if you're the White House. Up until the moment at which this is happening, you have to deny it if you're the White House, because if you don't, if you accept he's thinking about it, it's over. The second the White House acknowledges he might run, he might not, it is over. So you have to deny in order to generate time for President Biden to do it on his own if that's what he decides to do. Apparently, this is being slowed down to some degree by President Biden currently having COVID. The New York Times story explains that there are people around Biden who, were it not for him isolating with COVID, they would be much more forcefully saying, you've got to do it now. You've got to do it by Sunday. The reporting is that there's a bit of a delicate situation there because, he's out sick and people aren't necessarily going to show up and go, you got to do it and you got to do it now. The one interesting aspect to this is that if President Biden were to make this announcement soon-ish, Sunday, for example, it could really take the wind completely out of the Republican National Convention. Today is the peak in terms of you've got the full week of the RNC, Trump's speech last night, which I believe was a disaster, but whatever benefit Republicans and Trump will get from the RNC, it's going to peak now and over the next 24 hours. In general, by Monday, some of that will have died down. If on Sunday or Monday, President Biden makes this announcement, it completely defeats the RNC. They spent the entire RNC talking about Joe Biden. All of a sudden, if Joe Biden's not the guy that they're running against, that completely takes the wind out of their sails. Now, I am not pretending that there is an obvious, easy path to victory if at this point President Biden were to be replaced, and also if the replacement were to take place through a convention process in several weeks. However, what is reassuring is that people who aren't even running, Democrats who aren't even running, are already polling in the 40s against Trump in hypothetical polling. If they prominently become the replacements to Biden at the convention, and then have the appearance of being much more fit with it and ready to go right up against Trump, it's completely conceivable to me that the low 40s to mid 40s polling that these non-candidates have as their name recognition goes up and media coverage goes up could lead to extraordinarily positive results for Democrats in November. That's the optimistic perspective. So this is the latest reporting. I know that there are people in my audience who are furious about this. Look at the comments to my interview with Nicholas Kristof yesterday. Biden, please, no, don't even think about stepping down. David, you're despicable for even talking about this. This is sure disaster. The consensus that is building among top Democrats is that, of course, having the incumbent president change plans and say, I'm not running for re-election in late July, early August has huge risk associated with it. But the belief is that continuing on has risks that are just as significant, if not greater. That's the belief among top Democrats. Now, we can all argue about it. We can all talk about what we think is best and how it should be done and who the replacement should be. There are now concerns, including from people like AOC, that many of the people that want Biden to step aside would not accept Kamala Harris, even if she is the one who is selected. That could be a major problem. What is absolutely going to be disaster is if Biden does step aside, the way so many people have been arguing for him to do, Kamala Harris is the replacement. And then all the very same people saying Biden should step aside say, oh, I'm not supporting Kamala. I don't like her either. That will be a disaster. Okay, Trump wins if that happens. Let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's not count chickens before they hatch. Let's use whatever analogies and metaphors are relevant to you. But this is the discussion. Increasingly, reporting is indicating Biden could be out as soon as come Monday morning. We will follow it closely, and I will let you know if we hear anything on our end. Right now, we are seeing candidates do whatever it takes to win your vote, and how the media chooses to cover certain stories, if at all, can completely shape your perspective of those candidates. But our sponsor, Ground News, is an awesome resource at a time like this. With their Vantage plan, I get access to what's called their blind spot feed that shows me stories that can be easily missed. For instance, I'm looking here at Ground News' summary about Trump distancing himself from Project 2025 amid its rising controversy, something we've been talking about. Ground News provides a great summary of the situation based on over 100 articles that Ground News found reporting on it. And Ground News shows me that almost no conservative news outlets are covering the story. Not a surprise. Ground News shows us that the right-wing outlets only report on how Trump is denying involvement with the project, while the center and left outlets are actually giving context on Trump's connections to the movement of Project 2025. Every story comes with this visual breakdown of the political biases and ownership of the reporting news outlets, which is really important to know as well. Go to ground.news/Pacman or scan my QR code for 40% off the same unlimited access Vantage plan that I use.